Hello, and welcome back at long last to my Kerbal Space Program NASA series, episode 34. Real life and technical glitches have kept me away from the game for quite a while. I got the technical issues sorted out pretty quickly, but my employment situation took a drastic turn for the better, and I have been much busier than I had expected I would be. I did not actually get the part-time job that I was going to interview for. I got something so much better. I am now a mechanical engineer intern with a local company, so lots of excitement on that end, finally getting to do something with what percentage of a degree I have completed. So, just taking me a while to get back to this, but here I am, finally, after about a month and a half away. We are continuing where I left off, returning the science crew from the International Space Station, bringing back the experimental data that was gleaned from, I think, the plant growth experiment. It's been a while, so you'll have to bear with me if I don't quite remember everything. This mission was actually recorded probably around the same time that I quit updating my channel so often, so this is kind of an old video that I don't remember a whole lot from. I do remember this had to be run in OpenGL mode, that's why the frame rate is exceptionally choppy. Even in Direct 3D, it's pretty sluggish, but it's not this bad. Just running this at normal speed to kind of give an idea of what it's like when you have that massive station and the shuttle docked together. Had to remember what experiment I actually had done research on, and unfortunately I don't have F-Science. I don't even know if that's been updated in like forever. I have been pretty out of the loop in the Kerbal goings-on. In fact, it was only last week that I found out they were even trying to patch into Unity 5. So, obviously, been quite a while. But without F-Science, I have to send a brave Kerbanaut out to collect the data manually from the module. And since everybody is heading home anyway, there's no point in sending him back into the station. Just going to send him straight to the shuttle once he gets a good handle on these reports. Still beyond satisfied with the way my International Space Station turned out. Scale-wise, it's not correct, even remotely, but I think it follows Kerbal proportions rather faithfully. Here we'll hop back into the crew transfer module. It's been attached to the space shuttle for this mission, giving it a crew capacity of 7, much closer, well, exactly the real-life space shuttle's maximum capacity. Thankfully, with the science move, I can just switch into crew manifest and move everybody around with this. Was a rather quick mission. As far as urgency went, I wasn't wasting a lot of time hanging out and admiring the view too much. Just wanted to get up, grab the science, and come back. Loaded everybody up. Double check, make sure everybody made it into the canister, and I don't know why I checked this, but it was quite fortuitous that I did. I could finally see who all I actually put on the space shuttle crew for this mission. I had forgotten. And mere minutes after arriving at the station, the undock is performed to pull away and make a return for Kerbin. The space shuttle is getting into the last couple flights of its career because I am fairly close to unlocking the last part to start getting into my VentureStar program. VentureStar, once again, being a canceled SSTO program. It was a joint venture between Lockheed and NASA, but problems with the composite refillable fuel tanks kind of put the axe on it in the early 2000s. However, this is my playthrough, so I can pick and choose whatever near future concepts strike my fancy and play with them. And I didn't do a step down burn, I just pretty much set it for a return and ran with it. Wasn't too concerned with lowering my velocity. Or no, I actually did a step down, I'm sorry. I would have had to. That was at the KSS, which meant that's an extremely high orbit. A safe landing had by all, returning 7 Kerbinauts on the shuttle. For the time being, the station's going to remain unmanned for a little bit. But I did see a juicy contract come up. I was more interested in the money side of it than anything else. And I was able to make use of a probe I already had in orbit, the Eve Orbiter. It was just so happened to be in the correct inclination, so I was able to hop in and perform a couple experiments for about 500,000 Kerbucks, or however you want to say that, funds being the official term. And since I was having a nostalgia trip, these are all recently recorded, I decided to poke back around with my Duna Rover program. I'm gonna drive this little thing further around, but I was just trying to get back in the swing of things. Had to power down overnight while I waited for the sun to come back to charge me back up. Made about 4.5 kilometers progress away from the landing site, which is not too bad, but unfortunately I broke satellite contact and was left dead in the water for a little bit. Although there's no water on Duna. No water on Duna that isn't frozen anyway. But was able to tune to a satellite and get a signal back. So hopped back on the road briefly and transmitted some data. It's going to be a long drive. I'm just going to show bits and snippets of it. Unless, of course, I flip the Rover and make it explode into fiery doom and death. Then I will document that for entertainment purposes. Checking in with another probe, which still has quite a ways to go. It's very close to Joule, my Voyager 2. However, it's the relative velocities between the two are very, very low, so it's actually going to take it quite a while to actually make the rendezvous. But I did have some unexploited science opportunities, so I decided to run with those anyway while I was at it. The most important thing about checking in with Voyager is I'd actually lost my encounter with Joule. So I had to do a little bit of creative navigating to get back on a proper intercept. Took me a while to figure out what was going wrong because I kept burning and my velocity wasn't changing, but I had several little maneuvers that I'd forgotten I'd planned and definitely needed to delete those. There I go, accidentally creating one on the fly. So when I throttle up, I notice my encounter and closest approach isn't actually changing at all. I was a little stumped there. But I quickly figured out what was going wrong with the maneuver node I had created there. So quickly deleting that got me back where I wanted to be. That's one of the things. I don't know if this is save instability or it's just inherent in the game, but my encounters, especially these long distance ones, tend to come and go as they please. Usually doesn't throw me too far off, and it's not really anything that a quick adjustment won't fix, but it's rather annoying all the same. Finally got the hint that I should probably delete that maneuver and started burning just directly at Joule. I didn't have the patience to try anything more fancy than that. So set myself up for a nice long encounter. I haven't decided if I want to actually capture into Joule or maybe try to make use of it as a gravity assist to fling out of the solar system like Voyager really did in real life. But for now, I've got a little bit of time to make that decision. Not a whole lot, but there is time to be made. And here we go, back to the space shuttle. I had actually forgotten what crew flew on my last one, and I didn't have it written down, so I figured the original trio was as good as anybody to throw at this particular problem. I'm making my rendezvous with the Hermes Duna transfer vehicle. We're going to reinforce the structure and try to return that lander. It's not an insignificantly priced piece of equipment, but it's really not critical to return it in one piece. I just want to see if I can do it. So back to the lovely side profile view of the space shuttle that everybody has come to know and hopefully love. I know I do, but this thing's had quite a few flights under its belt, so it might be nice to get VentureStar online as quickly as I can. Give something a little more interesting to look at. I definitely want to be flying my crew up to Hermes in either a Soyuz or a VentureStar by the time I'm ready to depart for Duna. But I've got another 300 days before a transfer window to Duna opens up. So I honestly think I'm going to send Hermes back to Minmus for a quick exploration once I get a new, better redesigned lander up to it to replace the one we're removing for this flight. Going ahead and circularizing. A 150 kilometer orbit being child's play for the shuttle. I'm sure everybody's thankful to not be having to go to the absolute limits of its performance envelope yet again. After about 6 hours in space, make the rendezvous with Hermes. Had to chase it around for about an orbit, well, several orbits actually. Once the relative velocity gets decently nulled out, we send Bob out with the duct tape to try and tape the spaceship back together. Once I started looking at the layout and the construction of it, I was actually getting a little wary that ejecting the lander at this point would cause the whole thing to fall apart. So I decided to go ahead and put some of these Kerbal Attachment System struts on to hold it together better. Really didn't want to break this thing up into little bitty pieces by accident. I realized flying back and forth between Hermes and the space shuttle was going to get very tedious very fast. So I decided to just grab the container and bring it to me, shorten the trip considerably. Have I mentioned how useful and fun Kerbal Attachment System really is? I love these little storage boxes. I'm just going to put that in a decent parking orbit next to the ship. Being careful not to bump it too much, especially with those delicate solar panels around. Really probably should have pulled those in. I came dangerously close to knocking them off the ship several times. But I wasn't thinking, so here goes it. And it's at this stage where I'm starting to seriously reconsider how I want to do my final Pathfinder mission. I would love to do it in career mode, but with stability being what it is, I'm not quite sure I'm going to be able to. I'm going to ride this out into the bitter end until I can progress absolutely no more. But if it gets to that point, I'm thinking what I want to do is this is all tentative planning and whatnot, but I want to record the total cost of all the hardware I send to Duna for this mission, and just to give people an idea of what it would take to do it in career mode. But I may actually film like a little short movie, probably multiple part movie, using camera angles and music and stuff like that. Try to make things a little more dramatic and visually appealing. Otherwise, like I said, my current goal is to run my Pathfinder mission, which will be the endpoint of this series, in career mode, like all these other episodes. But if that proves not quite possible, I am gonna finish it off. You're gonna see Hermes and all my equipment on Duna working, doing their job. But it may be in sandbox mode, and I may try to jazz it up a little bit. I'm kind of torn, because I would very much like to sink my teeth into another cinematic project, because I really haven't done one since the little teaser trailer I put out way back when, before I started this thing. But like I said, If it becomes necessary, I will take that route, but knock on wood, things are running decently well at this stage, so just going to be a watch and wait type deal. Finally getting some of the last struts. You'll notice the box kept wobbling around on me and threatening to crash into stuff. Almost ran out of EVA fuel too. I wasn't watching the fuel gauge as close as I should have. So as the sun starts to set, Bob flies over and attaches the final link. That's probably way overstrutted. I'm probably giving the KSP physics system a little too much credit as far as construction goes, but it made me feel better and safer. So with the main structure of the spaceship fully reinforced, it's time to head back and drop this back off at the space shuttle. Put that back on its storage rack and fly back into the shuttle. And I decided to wait. I used the nighttime as an opportunity to move the shuttle closer to Hermes to close that distance back again. I didn't want to drift too far away. I don't actually have the shuttle set up for a reliable, successful, safe docking with Hermes. I'm pretty sure I could pull it off, but I really didn't see the point in docking the shuttle at this stage. Unfortunately, Bill, on his way to commandeer the stricken lander, ended up flying halfway across the solar system because he couldn't get his mittens to grab the bar, I'm guessing. So I went for the safer dock and moved in with crew manifest. And you can see I have so much confidence in my game stability that I give it the save a nice reassuring name. But everything went surprisingly well. No damage done. Ship didn't fall apart. Didn't implode the universe and break my save. So, mission successful so far. Took me a while to get my bearings on how to control this thing and fly it out of its docking bay. Exited Hermes cleanly. Decided to rotate the shuttle in the direction of the lander just to make things a little easier. Unfortunately, the heat shield I brought up to install on the lander ejected with a little more force than I had planned on. Actually, it ejected with the exact amount of force that a TR-18 stack decoupler will put on it. I was just too dumb to put something a little weaker on it at the time. So I have a spinning target to grab. The one good thing is that this thing has a docking port on each side, so if I miss one, I can always grab the other. Aiming was going to be a little difficult. You can see the dock align indicator was fairly well useless, but this is where the docking camera really came into its own. I just had to make sure that every time it spun around I was facing the docking port and call it good. With Bill having successfully configured the lander for its return, or attempted return, I really don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to try to come in real shallow so I don't burn those parachutes up, but I may end up losing the whole thing. The whole point of this is to set it up to return autonomously so I don't risk a crew member. That is something I very much badly do not want to do. With the vagaries of the KSP physics engine, I didn't want to take the chance of loading Hermes back up and having that debris clip inside of it, therefore destroying the whole thing, so I'm going to go punch it out of the way. Then back to the lander to dock with the shuttle. Try to get my alignment as perfect as possible. Not that it matters, but I am occasionally a perfectionist. May or may not come with the territory of trying to become an engineer, so But this is going to have to be it for this episode, getting up close to the end. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching. I am hopefully going to be resuming my regular posting schedule. I've got quite a bit of footage in the can for another episode, and I'm definitely going to be making more time for Kerbal Space Program in the future.